you teach actually right over here in Hayward, correct?
Glassbrook Elementary.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. So, I gotta ask, what was your like initial reaction to like the Florida shooting that just happened recently?
Initially, I wasn't as devastated as expected. Growing up in the States, you almost become numb to it. I remember one of the first shootings that really devastated me was Columbine, which was one of the bigger ones. But now it seems almost every year there's another school shooting.
Yeah.
So it almost becomes numb after a while. It was a little, it's always really sad when there's that much loss of life, especially when it comes to students. And then you always imagine what would you do in the situation and how it could have been prevented in the first place.
Yeah. Did you have any like concerns about safety, or like what were your feelings about safety beforehand?
In terms of my school?
Yeah.
When it comes to my school, I'm not too concerned about safety. We have campus PD usually patrols pretty often. They're just a call away. We don't have a security guard on campus, but we do have certain protocols set in place. We have Safety 911, which is an app that is through your phone as well as on your laptop, so it updates you. We have a PA system as well, obviously. But when you have 27 little kids to look after and it's your responsibility, it's always in the back of your mind for sure.
But it's like, would you say there's a different kind of safety that you think about majority of the time, or would you say that you think about the school shooting issue?
School shootings issues don't really come up with, just to be honest, the demographic I work with is a majority Hispanic, and that really hasn't been the history. When you look at all the other school shootings, it's primarily, I want to say, Anglo-Saxon or Caucasian shooters. So, and they're mostly on the East Coast, Midwest. Very few have been on the West Coast, especially in the Bay Area. I haven't heard of any. So school shootings definitely doesn't come up
As something you really think about.
Definitely not something I'm thinking about.
Okay. Well, we have a video here just from like the recent shootings. If you want to press play and just take a look at it.
You're lying, bro. There's gunshots, bro. You're lying, bro. You're lying. Oh, yo, what the fuck? Yo, god damn.
Yeah, no, it's pretty intense. After watching that video, though, would you say you kind of relate to any of the people, or how would you feel about your safety now after kind of witnessing something more firsthand like that?
It's just it's a little tough to respond to to something like that. It's a lot to take in,
Yeah.
for sure.
Would you say that there's a lot of concern from parents, or would you say that, you know?
There's always going to be concern from parents. Parents want their children in a safe environment. As a teacher, when kids come up to you the next day after an event like this and they ask you, Mr. Malik, did you hear about such and such? It's hard to respond to that. All you can do is try to guarantee their safety. Like, if anything happens, don't worry. Me and the other teacher will handle the situation. But that's not certain at all. That's just me trying to.
Have they been like coming up and talking about it though too a little bit?
There's been a few students here and there,
Okay.
but I haven't tried to address it to the whole class because I work with 8 and 9-year-olds.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if the parents came in and mentioned
Parents have
anything.
not. I'm sure if I worked at the high school level or even junior high school level, I probably would have some parents come in,
Mhm.
and I probably would have students, and I probably would address it as a whole class thing.
Yeah.
Because that'd be, appropriate for that age level. For my age level, I don't feel like it's appropriate to discuss. But there are students that do bring it up. So when it is brought up, I reassure them that I'm here to take care of them, and that no harm will come to them.
Mhm.
And that's my job.
Do you think it's a concern at all? Like, they're being exposed to it at a young age like that. Do you think it kind of grooms them almost for high school to kind of have it be expected? Because I remember you talking about the Columbine thing and how it's such a big event for
Yeah.
when we were younger and everything, and that was like the signifier event, and you wonder now if kids these days have a kind of signifier event that begins that knowledge of it, or if it's just happening so often that they're used to it. And what do you think about that? Do you think like their concern about their safety is because necessarily has anything to do with something recent happening, or it's just
I think when events like that reoccur, it's definitely a reminder for them. So
Yeah.
they definitely become aware of how things can happen and situations like that can happen. But it's not an everyday concern from them.
Does it
For them.
concern kind of drops off afterwards?
Exactly. After a
Yeah.
while, it always kind of tends to drop off.
Okay. What do you think should be done, or like, do you think teachers should do something about it to make people more aware, or do you think people are aware themselves, but they choose to ignore it or something?
To be honest, I feel teachers have a lot of work to do already. So and a lot of people do put that
Yeah.
on teachers. Like, as a teacher, your job is to teach.
Yeah.
That's number one.
It's
Of
hard
course
to be
you.
concerned about something like that.
Of course, you want to make your students feel safe, so they feel safe and comfortable enough in your classroom to open up, so they can actually learn something. I mean, that's huge as well. But as far as teaching goes, teachers can only do so much. We don't have the authority to do this, that, and the third, to change laws. We don't have any funds for us to get trained on how to bring awareness to students. We don't have counselors. We don't have enough counselors at school. My school has one school psychologist that we share with 3 other schools, and she's only at our school 2 days out of the week. We have about 2 counselors that help counsel like 500 of the students on campus. It's just not fair.
Not enough resources. or
Not
anything.
enough
Yeah.
resources. So if it was up to me, I would give us more funds so we could train teachers on what to do. We can train teachers on how to spot certain students like that. And we can have more counselors, more school psychologists, more of a focus on mental health.
Okay. Yeah. I was sketching that along as you were bringing that up. Yeah. Great. Well, thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate it, man. Thank you very much.
You're welcome,
Yeah.
always.
All right. So, Ryan, what are the age ranges of kids that you work with?
I work with kids ages 5 to 17.
Okay. Well, just for this, we're gonna be regarding more so to like the older side of that age group. But in regards to the shootings that happened with over in Florida, um, what would you say like your immediate reaction to the event was, or like other students' immediate reaction to it was?
I'm sure for me personally, it is definitely a distressing situation, and my first reaction is to try to safeguard any kids in a similar situation, and give some of the kids somebody to console with. A lot of kids are either usually confused or they react in a way that they aren't comfortable with because of this confusion, and this can be really difficult for a lot of kids. Most of the time, they're going to go straight to panic, and it's very important for a teacher or somebody who is higher up to to kind of tell these kids and show them how to keep calm and follow simple instructions and do it so quickly.
Yeah. Would you say, was it brought up at all beforehand, like before the event? Were there people that were concerned about school shootings or anything like that before?
Over the years, it's always been a concern. Every time one of these things happens, it's a concern. I'd say that every time people get a little bit more anxious about it because they already have known about some prior times.
Yeah.
So when parents ask, they usually seem more concerned every time it's a new shooting, for example.
Oh, okay. Well, just gonna watch a quick video
Okay.
about this. Is like some footage from the Florida shooting. It's kind of graphic, just to warn you.
You're lying, bro. There's gunshots, bro. You're lying, bro. You're lying. What the fuck? Goddamn.
Yeah.
These are some tough
I know.
scenes.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in. But after watching that though, what would you feel like your role, like as a teacher, would be in that kind of? I know you talk about protecting the kids
Yeah,
afterwards, but I mean, especially in that situation, I mean, it's
Right
just a
in that
lot to have to
situation,
handle.
Yeah, I mean, you can honestly tell these kids, they're so deeply concerned with it. They're just reacting just probably exactly. I mean, in that kind of scenario, your best bet is to, like I said, safeguard the kids. We as teachers, we have like lockout security protocol, and there's usually like an on-call for it. Obviously, in that kind of scenario, it can be difficult for that to happen easily. In that scenario, though, if you do suspect something or sense something, which you can, they usually have you take somebody to the kids to like an office that you might have, or if you're somewhere more difficult, like a stage.
So
you
there's
might
like
have to
sense of
hide the
training
kids.
and
Yeah,
stuff.
there are some training. It is not foolproof, and it is like in that scenario, it would have been very difficult to do that, especially very quickly without any pre-warning. it would have been a very difficult situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously, a lot of these kids are young. Not all of them have dealt with loss like this, and I can't tell you very many kids who have seen some. I've met a few, Oakland district and whatnot, but not many kids go through that. And when
Yeah.
they do go through that, some of the kids were surprised, from while they were in the car because they're outside the situation. The kids who were in the classroom, those kids are definitely deeply concerned with that. Wow.
And I know you talked about earlier about kids being in a panic. Would you say that panic had anything to do with relating to what had just happened and kind of seeing it as a possibility to happen to themselves, or
Oh, yeah.
how would you say that
That
panic was
and
directed?
a lot of it is shock too. Definitely is panic and shock, and yeah, these kids, especially if the person knew one of the kids that it happened to, it's hard to know what's gonna happen for them.
How about on the outside from other students who aren't necessarily involved there, but students that you experience with day to day? Do they have a sense of panic as far as it affecting them?
Some of the kids I work with, as far as that age group goes, would not be ready for some situation like that.
Mm-hmm.
Some I know would be, but I do not think that the kids are prepared for that situation.
Would you say it has any long-term effects on students that you deal with?
Absolutely, 100%.
How so? Like what kind of long-term effects?
Well, I've had students who have lost family members or who have seen friends die. A few students. Those students, they all react a little differently. Some become a little hardened. Some become cold. I have had friends who have, as kids, in similar situations, who have even turned to, drugs, alcohol, all sorts of things, gangs.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be really careful because kids can be highly impressionable at that age, and dealing with things like that can have a reverse effect on kids. And some kids become stronger. It just depends.
Well, thank you.